Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments or anything they'd like to share this morning?
I had an experience I wanted to share. I was feeling super tired when we started and wasn't quite sure how it was all going to work out, and was putting my attention on my Mingmen because that has given me energy in the past, but it wasn't really happening. And I started feeling the center lines, like in condensing breathing, just the like a hangman kind of thing. And it felt like that was sort of an extension of the Mingmen energy connected to the Mingmen energy, and almost like I could just sort of like hang on that energy, and that is what was moving me. And I didn't have to move. I could just feel the light essentially, and move with that. And was feeling also the sensation of sort of like being a sparkler when we were doing the form. Like there was, if I extended, it felt like light was coming out of my hands, and could feel it also going into the earth and going up. It felt like it sort of extended naturally. So wanted to share that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So,
thank you, Master Kim.
Yeah, welcome. You know, you find out more about yourself when you're tired, like fundamentally, don't you?
Most certainly.
Yeah. I feel like you had those findings because you didn't force yourself. You didn't try and make something happen. When something didn't happen, you actually just kind of went to the next thing, and then the next thing, and you just kind of just looked for the connection that was there, which is actually equivalent to receiving, because you're not trying to make something happen. And so I just kind of wanted to just bring that out or point that out, because oftentimes we have this impression, when we're energized, it feels like we're doing something and we can make something happen. And what we don't realize is that when you have so much energy, it's kind of like having a lot of water in a hose. And so because of that, when you have a lot of water in a hose, how do I say? It's kind of like it moves, like there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of pressure. And so that kind of makes you feel like that you're making something happen, but what we don't realize is that this feeling of us making something happen is a byproduct of just having lots of energy. And it's kind of like, instead of thinking that we're making something happen, it's probably better to say that when you have lots of energy, you don't realize all the things that's going in to making that happen. And when you don't have as much energy, when you have a lot of energy, you don't realize that actually you're also receiving, and that the reason, because your body's more open. When you have a lot of energy, it means that your body's open, right? And so you're actually receiving. And so ironically, also as you're doing things, and when you're feeling really energized, you're actually receiving by opening your body more, because you're uninhibited. And when your body is more open, you also receive at a higher rate. So we don't actually think in terms of receiving, we think in terms of actually controlling. But one of the things that you notice is that if you try and control, at some point, you'll start feeling the pressure going away. So like when you stop having fun is when you don't receive. That's actually when you stop feeling the positive feelings, whatever it is, gratitude or fun or just even peace or just a sense of progress or a sense of whatever it is. When the positive feelings stop, that means that the energy is going out at a faster rate than it's coming in. And so I kind of just wanted to just build on your experience, because once we realize that, you know, it's always the experience of receiving that brings us oneness and unison, you know, that really actually makes a big difference. Because, you know, then you stop trying to control, which is spending. Controlling is spending. And we need to understand that controlling is spending. So we need to change our mindset from controlling to letting go and receiving. And so once you can receive, you know, then like all is good. And so law of attraction also works in the same premise of receiving. It doesn't work on controlling. And so, you know, oftentimes the way, you know, people talk about the law of attraction is by talking about vibrations, you know, like, you know, sending out the vibration that you want to receive. And that's very, very accurate. But notice, sending out the vibration you want to receive. But then does that mean that you need to control the vibration? Or does that mean that you need to find the vibration that's already there? And where is the vibration coming from? If not from the universe itself, because the vibration is coming from your need, right? So, and so when your need is being met, so when you imagine, so one of the key things that they talk about in the law of attraction is that you imagine what you want. So what they don't realize is that what they're saying is that imagine your needs are being met. And what does a vibration feel like when your needs are being met? Now, in that very moment, when you imagine your needs are being met, in that very moment, you start vibrating or you start receiving the vibrations that you needed to receive. And once you start receiving the vibration that you need to start receive, then the physical part follows. And so I kind of just wanted to just reframe everything from a perspective of receiving, because, you know, I thought that that would actually even help you go further in your path and actually make everything more effortless. Because once we have this framework, you know, because like, it's like, as long as we're controlling, you know, we always end up at a deficit. Okay.
It's really helpful to hear that. It made me realize actually the point in the Gold series where things shifted over for me was I was imagining being surrounded by like people who were giving the quality of energy and attention that I wanted to receive, and just taking in that energy. And I think that's where it flipped for me, where my system started to turn on, because I before that was feeling sort of like more alone in it, and like I have to you know, I have to make this happen, I have to move my body, I don't know how that's gonna work. But yeah,
there we go. So by actually just seeing what it is you wanted, and then by allowing yourself, and you know, you're just allowing the vision itself of what you needed came to you, right? It's not like you have to imagine it. It's like you can just feel what you want, and out of the want, the vision just comes. The universe gives. And as the vision comes, you start feeling, and when you start feeling, you know, that means that you started receiving, and that extra bit of energy, and that's, you know, at the heart of what we call the law of attraction. We start receiving that energy. And so once you start receiving, your body starts opening, and then the rest kind of started happening, and then you just kind of kept following. And so, yeah, kind of just keep telling yourself to be fully myself means that I continue receiving. I keep opening myself up to receiving. And then, you know, letting go of control and letting myself receive.
Thank you, Master Kim. Yeah, that I appreciate you taking it, you know, like many steps further than where I started. Just that whole framework of why that, like, what were the conditions that allowed that to happen, which was following and receiving, and just making it concrete that when, right, even if I'm feeling awful, if I can get myself, if I can like open to receiving and identify what I want, then that energy starts coming towards me. So yeah, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And you know, it's like difficult. It's not difficult, but it's like actually I'm just gonna say it's difficult. I think it feels difficult, but see if we can start with the assumption that the universe is already trying to give you what you're looking for. And it's trying to actually, and the only reason you're not seeing it is because you're afraid that if you're afraid that you're not receiving it. And the only reason we're not seeing it is because it's actually trying to give it to you better than even you would imagine. But because we're so afraid we're not going to receive it, we're trying to, you know, because we have an idea of what it's supposed to look like when we receive it. And when it doesn't look like that, we're afraid that we're not getting it. And so that's where the control comes in, right? And so if you start imagining, or if you just start realizing, oh, you know, I'm probably not seeing it because, you know, it's trying to give it to me, and it's been trying to give it to me, but since I didn't realize that, I didn't see it, and it's actually trying to give it to me better than I imagined. But because, you know, we tend to actually kind of think in terms of, well, at the very least, I'd like this. And at the very least means that our needs are not being met, actually. So we're not used to, yeah, right? We're not used to actually thinking from a perspective of our needs being fully met, because that's so vulnerable. And what if, you know, and it's like, it's not like our needs are being met. So to kind of imagine our needs being fully met feels like really out of reality. Now, I'll tell you something really funny. Once this clicked for me, it really made sense. But before this clicked for me, it never really made sense, because I always thought that being in reality meant going for less than what you want. But you know, what I realized was that you can't run a car, like to run a car on less than, you know, like you want to run the car with as full gas tank as possible. And it's actually recommended that you gas up the car when it becomes half empty, because you don't want to wait until it reaches the bottom, because over time the car accumulates all kinds of things, the sediments and things like that. And so it's actually not good for the car to start using the gas that's on the bottom, because it's got more sediments and things like that, apparently, which actually makes sense. So if you keep your gas full, it's actually better for your engine and things like that. And imagine trying to run a person's system always just half empty. while trying to just do something full. And so wanting something, like adjusting your expectations to only have part of your needs met, actually doesn't work. That means that you're running on empty all the time. And emotionally, that means that you don't get to feel what your needs are all the time. And so, but it's super vulnerable when your needs are not being met to try and imagine having it all. Because what if it doesn't come true? And what if you have to face with the disappointment? And the way the mind works is for the rest of our lives. And well, that's a big disappointment to deal with. What if our needs can't be met for all eternity? Shouldn't we adjust our expectations? And you know, what we don't account for is that when we fully go for what we want, we actually have no regrets. And so we can actually let go if it's not meant to be. The only time we can't let go is when we've never fully gone for what we want. And so ironically, actually, if we fully go for what we want, we're actually protected either way. But the chances are that if we go fully for what we want, if it's actually truly what we want, what I found is that we get it. The only times we don't get it is if we were actually going after something that was actually a substitute. Meaning as in, it's not really what we wanted, but we thought we wanted it. But then as we started going fully after it, because we're fully in it and we don't have any doubt, it becomes really clear. Oh, you know what? I thought I wanted this, but because as the pain rises of not having it, you also start having more clarity. And so there's a beautiful article. I forget the name of the person. It's a person who started the spin classes, and there was I forget, like it was either like a 400-mile competition, or there was some like really like insane competition that I think like it was like really tough, like whether you had to be up for like a week or something like insane where, but anyways, he was within a mile of finishing the race. And all of a sudden, a mile before the race, and I mean, like, you know, it was like almost there. He all of a sudden realized he didn't want to finish the race. He realized that the experience of actually riding that far and actually having clarity that he didn't want to finish the race, he realized that that actually is what he needed. That's really what he was looking for. And so he said that people called him crazy and things like that, but he had peace because he realized that those people, they were talking about themselves. They weren't really talking about, you know, what he had to do. He actually had peace because he actually did what he realized he needed to do. He pushed himself as hard as he wanted, and he got to a point where he realized he didn't want to push himself any harder. And when he reached that clarity, that clarity was so healing. He wanted to recreate that experience for other people, and that's where the spin classes came. To just allow a person to go as hard as they want until they don't want to go that hard anymore. That's like a really beautiful story to me. And so the interesting thing about this whole thing is when we fully go for what we want, then we actually start having clarity as to what we really want and what we don't want, what our actual priorities are. And we stop chasing after the illusions of the things. The only time we're in pain is when we're chasing after something that we hope is going to get us what we really want. But, you know, it's kind of like a preparation. Like a good example is money. One of the reasons money is not fulfilling is because money is oftentimes for a lot of people a byproduct for an individual. It's really for safety, which is really important. That's kind of like a security and a safety, and it has a potential because it kind of feels like it will help you do whatever it is you want. And so when people don't have clarity as to what they really want, oftentimes they will go for money because they feel like it will bring them success, it will give them social status, and then on top of that, it feels like it will give them the opportunity to start really exploring what they really want, or that they'll have the means to be able to do what they really want. Issue with money is you can always make more, and the more you make, you realize you don't have enough. And so if you're chasing after something that you don't really want, but you're not fully into it, then you will be chasing forever. Now, however, if you could go fully after something, even if it's money, at some point it becomes not worth it. And then you start realizing, oh, why am I doing all this? And so that's kind of like why going fully after what you want is so important. Because at some point, when you go fully after what you want, you either get it or you realize it wasn't it. Either way, you get what you want. And so I kind of just wanted to just talk about going fully, like in your, like start with your mind, but allowing yourself to fully imagine what you really want. Because oftentimes we don't even let ourselves fully imagine what we want. Because why torture ourselves? And we don't realize that actually, it's kind of the opposite. It's actually not true. We're keeping ourselves always half-starved. And, and that's why we can't actually ever achieve the kind of things that we want, because we're always keeping ourselves half-starved. Nothing is ever satisfying. Okay. And so fully receiving in short, and I kind of just want to say, like you did this morning, continue to do that. And I want to say, just always keep going for envisioning what you fully want, because that ironically will help you become more and more vulnerable, which is a state of receiving. And that will help you become stronger to receive more and more and be fully who you are.
Thank you so much, Master Kim. That was a huge blessing listening to you. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm almost done cleaning here. Does anyone else want to share anything quick in closing, or ask any questions or comment on anything? Okay, very good. Okay, you'll have a great day of fully receiving and being fully yourself. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Master Kim.
Thank you, Master Kim.
You're welcome. Okay, bye.